So you're asking me to go off this theory you got about a white married male who happens to be a father living in the suburbs of Critic County, who also happens to be your AA sponsor, has been secretly running around, cramming objects, animals, and children up his ass. Then he somehow digests them, and he does this in sprees, almost in serial killer fashion. Is that about it?
Uh-huh.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dom Griffin, I'm a film critic, and you're watching the Armchair Auteur, a weekly video series where I review movies, talk about old films, look at the film industry and different trends and things like that, and share my opinions about them. This week we're reviewing a film called Butt Boy. It has been quite some time since we reviewed a new movie on the channel, just because I was on hiatus, and when I got back the whole COVID thing happened, so not very many new release movies have been coming out, not any good ones anyway. But this week, taking a break from binging random stuff on Netflix and catching up on Better Call Saul, I decided to check out this movie, Tyler Cornack's directorial debut, Butt Boy. Yeah. A little bit of background. Some weeks ago, I because like I'm a Rotten Tomatoes critic, and because like I'm in like a critics association and stuff, like my name gets on a lot of like PR lists, and I get sent like movies to review like all the time, and a lot of stuff is things I don't really have time to review, or stuff that I'm going to be very honest, I have zero interest in watching for free or money or otherwise. And one such day recently, I was looking through my notifications on my phone, and amidst a bunch of other like emails and things like that, I just saw this subject line that was just like, "Dom, Butt Boy's here!" And I was just like, you know what, I have enough going on in life, I'm not even gonna fucking open this, okay? I'm just gonna move on with my day. And then like a couple of weeks later, I actually heard about the film outside of that PR email, and its premise was interesting enough to me to want to at least seek it out and give it a chance. Yeah, so it was originally set to open at the beginning of April in like, you know, niche small screens, but because there are no screens open, last week it came out like on VOD. You can rent it and buy it and stream it and all that stuff. Butt Boy is a relatively straightforward crime fiction movie. It's like a very genre-heavy film about two characters. A cop, played by Taylor Rice, named Detective Russell Fox, who is a recovering alcoholic, and his sponsor that he meets in AA, Chip Gutchell, who is played by the director Tyler Cornack. Russell's put on a missing persons case to find different people that have been gone missing, like people, animals, like objects, things that have just been going missing around town. And it turns out that Chip is the one doing it. Chip is just putting people and things up his ass, leaving like no trace. He doesn't like digest them. He just puts things into his ass and they just disappear forever. And Russell's the detective that has to try to stop him. That is the basic, simplest version of the premise I can explain to you. That's what the movie's about. Now, having actually seen the film, the movie is about slightly more than that, but not a lot more than that. Like, the general premise of this movie feels like something that would be a pretty funny, like, short film. Like, that you'd see, like, South by Southwest or something. Or, like, maybe, like, a really ambitious, like, Key and Peele sketch. Like, it has ridiculous, absurd comedy written all over it. You know what I mean? It seems like it's going to be played for laughs. But that's not really the direction the film takes. The thing about Butt Boy is that when you're watching it, even though it's obviously a heightened reality, and obviously this is like a genre piece that's divorced from reality, everyone involved with the picture plays things mostly straight. Like, some people are playing like caricatures, and some people are kind of doing this like near parody thing, but no one is outright just going for laughs. And it's a very fine line to walk. You know, it's amazing to me that the filmmakers are able to walk it for like an hour and 40 minutes. Make no mistake, this is a story that probably would work better as a 10-minute short film. But the fact that they stretched it out for a feature length in like an hour and 42, not like in like 80 minutes, 90 minutes, like 100 and, you know, like 8 minutes or whatever, they managed to make this ridiculous concept function. The thing of it is, it's not just that this is a movie about a cop trying to catch someone who's like a serial killer, but with his ass, like his ass is the weapon. It's that they find ways to make this make sense. And it shouldn't, but it does. When we first meet Chip, he's like an IT guy working in a shitty office. In a very, very, very quick amount of time on screen, the filmmakers are able to show you like how miserable his life is, how empty it is, and how there's just like nothing going well for this guy. He works, his wife hates him, he has a small child, and he's just like a miserable, empty person. And then one day he goes to the doctor to get like a checkup, and the doctor gives him a rectal exam and accidentally milks his prostate for the first time. So this obviously changes Chip's life. Here's this guy who has like nothing to live for, and he discovers this one thing that makes him feel good, and he becomes addicted to it. He begins like just putting anything he can find up his ass. And obviously they take this absurd idea to its, I don't want to say logical extension, but like they keep it going until he actually starts like putting like whole people up there. Then it flashes forward 9 years, and he's in AA, and he meets Russell, like our main character, like the detective. I feel like the movie describes Russell like really perfectly.
You look like every detective ever.
Oh, yes? Ow.
He's got the greasy hair and the earring. Looks good. You look good.
And he does. He looks like every cop in every movie ever. But it never feels like a joke. It never feels like he's like doing a Mad TV parody of cop movies. It's actually a pretty serious performance. And I think what makes it work so well is that these guys are doing a movie that is like obviously a ridiculous like South Park gag stretched far beyond its means. But the reason it has this like functionality is because they are playing with a well-worn genre that we all know very well. We all know the trappings of a cop movie like this, where he's like him and the killer, opposite sides of the same coin and all that stuff. But it never makes fun of those movies. It just is like, okay, well, when you look at genre over time, genre works, right? Like certain genres are successful for a reason because there's a formula underneath like the story, and you can plug and play different ideas and themes and locations and characters and still come out with like an entertaining story. What these guys did was do what lots of people do, which is like, oh, what if we made Heat, but instead of like bank robbers, they were like this or whatever. You know, like people just take like an iconic crime movie and then just like dabble and tease with it. But these guys didn't just dabble and tease. They like really pushed the boundaries of what you should be able to reasonably do in a cop movie. And they succeeded. As you're watching this, I don't want to give away too much of the plot, because I do sort of think if you were willing to watch this video, then you should probably actually watch Butt Boy. And when you see it, you will see what I mean. That even though it's an absurd exercise in genre experimentation, it's also very shrewdly directed. It has really strong visuals. It has its own like clear visual language. The cinematography is beautiful. It's pretty well edited. The performances are solid. There's like a sort of darkly comic undertone where there are moments where you're going to laugh, but even the stuff that you think is supposed to be like a big gross out humor thing still is like unsettling. So it never goes into like full on, here's the big guffaw, here's this big crazy moment. There are some crazy moments in this movie. I don't even want to give them all away. Like the entire third act is just fucking bonkers and like shouldn't work or make sense, but they never take the time to explain the logistics. They never waste your time and theirs to like try to make it realistic or whatever. They just sort of give you this weird aberration and then ask you to accept it. And because so many other elements of the movie are kind of grounded and kind of realistic, it works. Jim Cornette, famous pro wrestling manager, promoter, booker, personality, podcaster now. I remember one time I was listening to an interview with him, and he was talking about how in the old territory days of pro wrestling, you were able to do some really experimental, interesting things with kayfabe, as long as you hew to realism in the fundamentals. The idea that older bookers and stuff would tell you is like, you know, if you can take an audience member and make them believe in like A, B, and C, like the very basic things that are predetermined, are fake, but feel real and logical and grounded in a world they can accept, if you veer off in D and E and you keep going in some other direction that is not in any way housed in reality, they're going to keep going with you. They already believe in what you've been talking about, so they're like, okay, well, fuck it, we'll see where this goes. You've already got them on the hook, you know. And the big thing about genre is that for most genre things, science fiction, crime fiction, whatever, anything that's like outside of the bounds of reality, let's say, it works best if you have one removal from reality. As long as you take one core thing about it and then that's the aberration from what is real, people can accept like about one aberration. It's like if you watch a movie about a werewolf, but everything else is realistic, but a guy turns into a wolf, you know werewolves aren't real, but when you're watching it, you accept the werewolf because it's like, okay, I'm watching a movie. I can accept a werewolf. I can accept time travel. I can accept, you know, like whatever one core thing. The human, I guess, mind for accepting storytelling, that's just how it works. The problem is if you go 2 steps further. You know, if you watch a movie where there's like vampires that time travel, that's kind of weird. But in general, you can really only accept like one of these turns. Here in Butt Boy, this is, as I've said, a somewhat straightforward serial killer film. It just asks you to accept that the serial killer is killing people by ingesting them anally. And I think one last element that sort of makes the movie work so well is that it is kind of about something. It's not like about some highfalutin, you know, pseudo-intellectual experimentation in your mind or whatever, but it's like, even though they use the trapping that these two characters meet at AA as being like a simple setup or whatever, it's actually what the story is about. You know, like Russell Fox is an alcoholic. That's not like a trapping they give him because he's a detective. And Chip isn't really like a murdering, like weird guy who gets off on killing people. He's addicted to doing this one thing. It's a compulsion he can't stop. So even though the movie is like way out there and does some very weird things, if you watch the entire trailer alone, that will show you like this is a weird fucking movie. But you believe these two characters' odd semi-bonding over a compulsion. Like when when Russell talks about his alcoholism, he talks about what he misses about drinking, it's a very real thing. You know, like I've been sober now for, at the end of the week, it's going to be 4 years. I haven't had a drink in 4 years. It's been 4 years since I had, I don't know, like half a Bud Light lemonade Rita, and I've been sober ever since. But I'm someone who I spent most of my adult life drinking like all the time. Like I loved drinking, and I still miss it. And when I think about it, I think about it very specifically what I miss about drinking. It's not like a far off thing that's difficult for me to describe to people. And there's a moment in the movie where Russell's describing what he misses about drinking, and it rang really true to me. Not very many movies like capture alcoholism very well. Like Leaving Las Vegas with Nicolas Cage is obviously like a big hallmark for people, but that's like a real on the extreme end. If you watch The Way Back, the recent Ben Affleck sad alcoholic basketball coach movie from the director of like Warrior and The Accountant, there's a bit in that movie where Affleck is like home by himself drinking a ton of beers alone. And he like does this little ritual where he always has a beer in the freezer to keep it like extra cold. And every time he pulls one out to start drinking it, he moves another one from the fridge into the freezer. And as the sequence moves on, the editing increases, you watch him do this like, it's like a ritual. It's not so much just the drinking, it's all the little things around it too. And it's odd to me that Butt Boy had that level of believability when addressing addiction, you know what I mean? And even though Chip's character doesn't have as much exteriority, so much of his character is just like on the inside, literally like in his ass, that compulsion of what he does, even though he knows it's bad, knows it's self-destructive, knows it's terrible, but just wants to feel good, it still works. And it works far better than a movie that this absurd should. So yes, I did not think we were ever going to get to a point like this on the channel, but I am recommending that you go out and watch Butt Boy. So that's the video. As I said, this movie is available on multiple platforms to stream. I think it's worth watching if you guys are looking for something new to watch. There's plenty of old films to watch, but if you're looking for a new product, most of the new movies that are being released are kind of crummy. This is actually kind of special. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell icon so you can see notifications when I put new videos out. We'll have another video out later in this week. And thanks, guys. Have a great day. Stay safe.